All right, everyone. Welcome to the Mixed Space Book Club, where stories spark connection. We're so grateful for you all to be with us today, with our author, with the people who are live in Discord, and with those who are watching the replay. Those of you who are watching us on YouTube, everyone is welcome, and we're so happy that you're here because our mission at the Mixed Space is to empower individuals, folks with mixed identities, intersectional identities, to develop, embody, and actualize their full self. And we want to do that by fostering meaningful relationships across social spaces, romantic spaces, professional spaces. And so this book club is a way for us to do just that. We're fostering meaningful relationships. We see each other every month for book club. We see each other every month for drinks on Discord. We ask questions. We explore topics and questions that are challenging us, that are strengthening us, and that allow us to be seen. The exchanges, resource sharing, story sharing allows us to be seen. And so every book that we choose explores themes that brings our mission to life. It's all about identity, healing, wholeness, rupture, and what it means to live and love in the in-between. So thank you in advance for bringing your voice, for bringing your presence, and especially your openness to this moment. I am going to introduce myself and share a little bit more about me, your host for today. Let's see, gotta let me know if you can see my screen share here. I think it's working. So everybody can ask questions. You can ask questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand and you can join us up here on the stage and you can ask your question directly. We love your engagement. So any way that you want to engage through emojis, through coming up on stage and sharing is definitely open, and we love it. So I'm your host. My name is Lily Alice Walker Stiefel. I use pronouns she, her, hers. I'm the founder of the Mixed Space. I identify as Black and mixed. I'm bilingual. I speak fluent English and fluent German and some French, and I'm also learning Tree because I am a third culture kid. I used to be located mostly in New York City on Lenape land, and now I've moved to West Africa. I live in Ghana. But my family's from Germany, so sometimes I also host meetups from there. I'm just kind of on the move. And one of the things I like to do is honor my matriarchal lineage, which is something I learned from my mentor, Tanya Pinkins. So I just like to open up by saying I am the daughter of Linda, who is the daughter of Margaret. I called her Nani, and she's the daughter of Florence. And I want to honor my father's matriarchal lineage too, my grandmother Gail. She's late now. My Aunt Carol, my Aunt Carla, who's also late, my Aunt Kim and Gaynell, and some of the other women who are now my cousins who are continuing to lead this family forward, Kristen and Ebony, just to name a few. And like I've mentioned, my people are from Germany, from Ireland, from New Orleans, so they're Creole. My dad's dad is from Honduras. And the larger African diaspora at large. My dad's African DNA is from Sierra Leone. And so I'm definitely mixed, and maybe even to your point, Philip, multi-generationally mixed, because I think Black people in America, we don't really even know our mixes and we don't know where we're from. So I've mentioned that I live in Accra, which is the Ga land. So the people who are indigenous to this land are the Ga people. And I encourage all of you to make yourselves aware of the land, that the indigenous peoples that were here before you, and not even just awareness, it's actually moving deeper into activism. I encourage you to find one action that you're willing to take responsibility for this week that will directly empower and support the indigenous people, the native people from the land that you're on. And it can be something that's economic power. It can be something that supports the elders, that supports the youth. It can be something that actually strengthens the relationship to the government, the non-native government and the native autonomous ways of governing land and governing culture. And I would love for you to put those in the chat so we can see the kind of impact that people are willing to make here today. Like I've mentioned in the beginning, we are recording this so that folks can catch the replay. Everybody always asks for it, so we made sure that we're streaming it on YouTube, and you'll be able to catch the replay on YouTube. And we have our discussion guidelines. I'm not going to read all of them, but like I've mentioned, engagement is encouraged. We're absolutely happy for folks to talk about intention and impact. Sometimes those don't match up. We apologize. People move in and move out of discussions. Name your identifiers, mean what you say, use trigger warnings. This space is confidential. Don't go and tell your neighbors, specifically people's names, etc. You can share people's experiences and use I statements. And we're growing. That's what the whole space is about, is to grow as people. So I just want to make you aware of Maria P.P. Root's Bill of Rights for Mixed People. It's also posted on our Instagram. It really is just an opportunity for you to continue to claim what you have the right to as a mixed person and what we believe and how our community is founded, especially also the multiracial oath of responsibility, because we have privileges, we have rights, and we also have responsibilities. And that's what keeps us in balance. That's what keeps us connected. Okay, so without further ado, I am going to end this screen share and get on with introducing our lovely author for today, our very charming author of today. And I cannot wait for all of you to hear his story. So Philip Timothy Arnell, a Caribbean American author, researcher, and a storyteller born in Queens, New York. Philip is of multi-generational Caribbean heritage with ancestry that includes European, African, Indigenous Caribbean, so Carib, and Indigenous Amerindian roots across both sides of his family. So through nearly 5 decades of genealogical research, Philip has carefully documented his family history, deepening not only his own understanding of his identity, but also contributing to broader conversations about mixed race representation and mixed race history. So Philip's 12 books have reached readers in more than 20 countries. They've been featured in museums, libraries, national archives, educational resources. So he's the author of, I guess I said 12 books, and they're exploring mixed identity from a Caribbean American perspective, including MGM Perspective, Life of a Dark Mixie, Mixed Conceptions, and Mixed Stays Fixed. So Philip's newest book is called So What's Wrong with Being Mixed? And this book continues the conversation by asking questions about representation, identity, and why mixed people have so often been expected to explain, simplify, or deny parts of who they are. So please join me in welcoming Philip Timothy Arnell to our book club today. And
thank you so much.
I already have my first question lined up, but yes, I would love to just let you respond briefly.
Thank you so much, Lily. It's wonderful to be here. Hello, everyone out there in the mixed space. Are you ready to have some fun? There's some great conversation. It's about to happen. So let's take it away.
Awesome. Oh my God. Okay, awesome. So the first question is that I did some research and I heard you say that you had no concept of race until you were 7 years old. So
Right.
can you share with us what your discovery of race entailed and how that impacted your life and your identity?
Some would think of it as a negative experience. When I was at home, I lived on 145th Street. My mother's parents lived on 144th Street. And my father's parents lived in this house, which is on 142nd. So I was between St. Martin, Aruba, Anguilla, and Barbados. This is what I knew. When I went out to school, there were other kids from similar backgrounds, and there was a bit of diversity. But it wasn't until I switched schools after the first one had closed down, and I was in a bathroom, and there was this kid in there, and, well, you behave the way you were taught at home, or the things that you see. He had called me the N word. And so I said, okay, he's going to do that. I had heard it, but at that time, you only heard it from shows like The Jeffersons or good times or whatever. And even in those days, your parents would say, okay, you can't watch this. You heard it, but then you forgot
Mhm.
about it. And then he called me the H word. Now I heard that as well too. And so I said, all right, let me go home. Let me talk to my mother and my father. I spoke to them, and so they said, first off, stay away from that kid. He's not well trained, and you don't need to have that type of negativity. That's when they had started to school me about who I was. Before that, it was a blissful childhood where anybody who was nice to you was a part of your life. Again, I was in a diverse family. They come in all different shades, from the very, very dark to the very, very light. You have your blacks, your whites, and your in betweens. But you don't notice that until it's actually pointed out. So from that first experience, I said, okay, there's going to be people out there who are going to try and judge you and treat you poorly for no reason at all, because this kid was in my class, but I didn't hang out with him. He decided he was going to act up for whatever reason. So that was my opening into learning about diversity. And in a strange sort of way, though it's a negative story, a lot of positivity came out from it.
Mhm. Mhm. Has that been a pattern for you, that a lot of positivity, that you're able to turn negative experiences into experiences that later have a lot of positivity?
As they say, when someone gives me lemons, I'm going to turn it into lemonade. Sounds cliche, but hey,
Okay.
it's exactly what it is.
Okay. Has there ever been a time that you can think of where it's felt, in the beginning, it felt kind of impossible for you to turn it into something positive, or you felt like you couldn't find any positivity to it maybe until much later?
That's an excellent question. For me, if something had occurred, I think about it and I say, okay, this isn't, even from a small child, this is not going to take over my whole day. It's not going to take over my life. If it's something that's going to continue for a while, I just stayed away from that environment, and eventually it would work itself out. As I moved into different circles, I saw that there were broader mindsets and more evolution of the mind. There is no other way to put it. You have people who have evolved and people who have not evolved, those who
Yes.
never will evolve. So for me, all
Mm.
my experiences at that time when you first happens, you're like, oh, wow, all right, don't let this take over your life. If it lasts a little bit longer than that, you do things not to compartmentalize it or distract yourself from it. You're just saying, I'm going to rise above it. Should it come about again, I'll know how to handle it. And so far, I've had a pretty good run.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So, following the timeline of your life here, you also mentioned that your family encouraged you to write your experiences and track your history when you were like maybe 12. So, can you
Yes.
tell us more about that?
Oh, that's one of my favorite stories. I started my family research when I was 10. I'll never forget. I lived 2 blocks away. My father and I had come over here and so, hi, grandma, hi, grandpa, how you doing? So forth. And I went into the back room. And on the back room wall, he had a picture of his father and a picture of his mother. And so I had never seen them before. And so I looked at him and I looked at him. And so I said, who are they? And so he says, that's my father. That's how he used to talk like this. Right. And so I said, a lady, that's my mother. And that's when I started to learn about them. And, as time went on, I'd asked a lot of questions. Then my grandfather had passed away when I was 12, and people came out of everywhere. I had met cousins and aunts and so forth that I never even knew had existed. Luckily,
Mhm.
they were so open to learning about who I was that I established relationships with them that last now 44 years later, that we're all still very close, which is great. So what had enabled me to do was think about the things that I had learned. And then when we started visiting these places where they were all from, I take a mental note, write it down, ask questions, walk, talk, eat, along with the people who I would be eventually writing about, all their immediate offspring. My grandmother had told me right after my grandfather's funeral, I'd come over to the house. And so I said, oh, I met this person, that person. This is amazing. I didn't know this. And so she says, what you should do, you should write all this stuff down. And so at the age of 12, you don't listen to yourself, much less any adult. I mean, you do, but still. I took her seriously, and that's when I started to do these things. And through the years, through all the trips and getting to know people and somehow getting connected to people in the farthest regions, I was able to establish relationships with them. And we would share things. They would share stories. I would share stories that I had from over here. They would send me pictures, and I was able to add to my collection. And then finally, from the age of 12 until I was 33. 33, I made the first draft that was just 16 pages. Then the next thing you knew, it was 66 pages. Then finally, it graduated up to 192 pages, where I've had stories and of how this came to be, and mental notes, and in getting to know my great aunts and uncles posthumously and their children. It has been an amazing ride. And the thing is, it never stops. I've done this on both sides of my family, where on my father's side, I was able to research as early as 1634. I think that's the year. And on my mother's side, on my own, I made it as far back as 345 AD. Now, I have two cousins, Angela Gabriel and Alan Ian Dean, who are in Barbados, and they are phenomenal with their research skills. I've learned so much from them. They have been able to guide us all the way back to our first direct ancestor from 100 BC. Amazing work that these guys have done. And the things that I have learned and found out, I have a file from Alan, and it's about that thick when I printed it out. It took me days to do. And just reading through, I'm still not finished with it. He even blessed me with something yesterday. My mother's grandfather was not in my grandmother's life. Now, she was an outside child, for lack of a better term. Well-grounded lady, but this is exactly how it was in those days. He
Yeah.
got married and he had 4 children and he raised them. He came to New York in 1908. My grandmother came in 1918, 1919. They never saw each other. She never even knew him. She knew his family, which was her family. They were all ministers and people of church and so forth, but they just did not cross paths in a small place like Barbados, which is strange. She went to that church. Lo and behold, this man is buried 20 minutes from my house. And I never knew that until about maybe 5 years ago. So the funny part is, Alan has sent me a picture of that great grandfather yesterday. Now, I had one that I received several years ago. And I was like, wow, okay. And then I got all of his siblings and I got his parents all the way back as far as my fourth great grandmother, who was born in 1908. I have all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, I got to see something I never thought I would see. First, it was him. But then yesterday, I saw what he looked like when he lived in New York. He lived in Brooklyn, not too far from here. And then he ended up living in Cedarhurst, which is the other direction out in Long Island. I got a picture of him around 1915, and I've got a picture of him as a toddler. And I'm like, well, how do you like that? I know. Outrageous. I couldn't wait to tell my
Wow.
mom. I called mom, I said, Ma, get this. Said it to her. She says, who's this? And so I said, that's your grandfather. And she goes, my
Wow.
mother is a very unique individual. I'm very blessed to have both my parents, Fabian and Victor Emmanuel Arnell and Louise Ione Boyce Arnell. Thank you for my life, Mom and Dad. I always get a lump in my throat when I say that because it's true. And they have taught us so much. And I'm happy that I've been able to dig so deep into their past to reacquaint them with those who they came from. And that means so much to me. It's part of the whole mixed experience because they've learned about people from the deepest parts of one area to the deepest parts of another. I learned so much from them and my grandparents. And I think these are the most important treasures of my life because I'm married, I have children, I've been able to share with my wife, learn her background as well too. She's mixed as well. She's from Guyana. She's mostly Amerindian though. Her mom, Gloria Lowe, that's my sweetheart, just like my mother. She still speaks the native Arawak tongue. Fantastic. I love to hear her speak it. I want her to say a few words because most people now, at least over here in New York, they don't really speak it. But I'll watch her say, hello, how are you? Halekoba. I hope I said it correctly. And what was nice is that when I found out about my Arawak lineage, I was able to say, hey, listen, we're from the same club. So that was in addition to the Carib lineage that I already knew about. It's fascinating, the stories that I've learned. And I teach it to my children. My children, all of them are very much aware of their background, who they are, and identify with the truth and embrace the diversity. The
Mm-hmm.
last book that I wrote recently that just come out, the two youngest ones were able to contribute by speaking about their experiences. And I was fascinated because now I'm hearing it from somebody of my line, but from the next generation. Because I have my stories, my parents have their stories, my grandparents, of course, would have theirs as well too. And these are things that you teach and you pass down. And what I like is that these kids here, they judge people on their character, not on anything
Mm,
else. Paula and I, my wife Paula, hello, my dear. We encourage our children to learn about themselves and to make sure that no one tries to take away their culture from them. And once you're able to plant that in your child's mind, there's nothing that can stop them from doing positive things.
mhm. Wow. I'm so inspired and touched. I'm
Thank
just
you.
so grateful that you're sharing this with us, and yeah, it's really inspiring, and I'm excited for other people to be able to watch this and take that in and really see the impact that it has, if especially when you really do listen to your elders, when you take them seriously and you follow their impulses, and you take it to heart and you keep going. It's like you've been, I mean, researching for 50 years now, and
Right.
I'm curious, after all that time, what's one of the things that has surprised you the most, or has there been anything that's really changed the way you understood yourself?
I'm glad you asked. You got great questions, Lily. Okay, I'll start off by saying this. My grandmother, and I will address her by her professional title, teacher Cecile Armentine Carty Arnell. She was a school teacher in Anguilla. She gave great advice. So one of the best bits of advice that she gave me was, in order to know the world, you must know yourself first. And I took those words to heart, and I still pass that information on to people today. I am the type of person that you grow through your experiences. And the things that I have seen, I've seen how now that the mixed community has come more forefront, as opposed to even 10 years ago. People would not want to talk about it because it was a taboo in society. Now, there are so many clubs out there that are teaching people who are mixed what mixed really is. We have a long way to go because remember, we have the influences of families, we have the influences of outside social world. It is a touchy subject, but what I am seeing now, people are opening up, not just placing themselves in a box, or rather, not placing themselves in a box, keeping themselves in a box that somebody else put them in. I never wanted to be in a box. If I'm going to be in a box, I will create it and I will open it up to others and I will line it with the truth. I won't be the type of person that will hide a part of myself. I look at it this way. I come from three different backgrounds, just putting it forefront like that. If I take one part of that background out, extract it from my ancestry line, I don't exist. And I like being here, so I'm going to make sure that I speak about it. The largest part of my background, I'm an MGM, and it's multiple, all generations on both sides. My DNA tests even surprised me because I've taken different ones, and I learned from one of the doctors there that usually when you have a heavily mixed background, it's hard to pinpoint it. When you find one that really lines up with your family, that's the one that's most likely the most correct. All right, sure. These are novelties and so forth. The best way to take a DNA test is if you're sick, and that you need a hematologist. So let's hope I never have to do that. But right now, the one that has been the most substantial and the most accurate to the dynamics of my family is cryogenetics.com. I honestly think that is best one. Other ones have also sworn about it as well too. The bulk of my background is 66% European, 26% African, and 8% Amerindian. And so I said, okay, wait, let me check this here. And so I went through all my files and I looked at all the people and so forth, said, this makes sense. Now, some people will say, oh, are you saying that you're not Black? And so I said, no, I never said that. I told you what my percentages were, what my lineage is, and what I grew up around and what I have been exposed to. How do I identify? Simple, the truth. I am a mixed race person. There are people who say, oh, well, you're not mixed race because you have two Black parents. And so I said, I never told you I had two Black parents. I told you that I have two mixed race parents. And then they would say something like, oh, well, mixed is only when you have two parents of different races. And I'm thinking, someone did not study science. Look at it this way, and I use this as a joke. Can you play basketball with a football? No. You do one dribble, it's going to go the opposite direction because of the way that it's shaped. I am the type of person that believes in the tangibility of fact, and I believe in science. And
Mm.
also from my experiences, they say, oh, an experience determines what you are. So I said, no, it can help mold your personality, but my experiences have nothing to do with my genetics at all. I am proud to be of European descent. I'm proud to be of African descent. I am proud to be of Amerindian descent. There are those who say, oh, that test was wrong because they don't travel in different circles and see the differences of people. They only see
no,
for a dark complected mixed person, they only see the complexion first. And I think that is an injustice because that shows that you're not really paying attention. You say, okay, that person's this, let's put them in that box over there. There's different parts of a person's description that can point out what their background could be. Their skin tone, under skin tone, hair texture, eye color, body shape, facial features, all of these things. People don't take time to that. And so they're, why should they? Oh, hey, listen, the fact of the matter is it's about representation. Every other group on this planet has representation except mixed race people. And they could be of any mixture. We still have a voice. We still have representation. And why is it someone should say, oh, you should not do this and you should cut out that part. You shouldn't do this because you're going to look foolish. Foolish to who? Only to the reductive minded people who are still stuck in an archaic mindset. And me, I never wanted to be that.
That's a quote. Foolish to who? Only to the reducted minded. I love that. I love that. I want to shout out our people watching on YouTube. Someone said, we need to know ourselves to build that inner power from within.
Ooh, I like
not
that.
from
Listen to that.
not from outside. Someone on YouTube. And it's like, that's exactly what your auntie was saying, the school teacher. It's that you
My
have to
grandmother.
know Soul Girl. Her name is Soul Girl. She said that. So yeah,
I Soul
Soul Girl
Girl,
says we have to
wonderful
know
quote.
ourselves. Yes. We have to know ourselves to build that inner power. And that's the whole reason the mixed space exists. That's my whole purpose and mission with the mixed space is that when you can claim your privileges and you can claim and you take responsibility and you know who you are, then you can build power and you can build resilience and you can stand up for yourself and you can create a space. Like you said, you can make a box for yourself and you can line it with your truth and you
Right.
will build your community and the spaces that you click with, that you don't find to be reductive, that are not bothering you with oversimplified questions that really have nothing to do with how you identify, who are not taking the time to understand the complexity of the layers of your identity, your skin type,
Right.
your phenotype, your culture, your background, your own identity, like your
You never know
experiences,
what a
all of the
person is
things that
from. You have
made
to
who
ask
you
them.
are.
Right. Something that my father said, it just crept into my mind. He said, you can blend into any space that you want, but what's going to solidify you in it is your character. I keep coming back to character because it's true. And so he says, look, we all have, as mixed people, we all have levels of ambiguity. Some are more obvious than others, depending on what circle that you're in. Mine, the ambiguity is the first thing they ask is if I am Blindian or if I am Middle Eastern. And I said, oh, well, thank you. Those are some really attractive people. So I said, no, I'm Caribbean American through and through. And if they ask whatever the background is, I say this, that, and that. I try to simplify it and move on because I don't want to dive into all that stuff unless they actually want to learn more about it. Then I say, well, listen, go on Amazon.com and get my books.
Buy my books. Yeah.
My
Yeah,
father said, use
absolutely.
your character. Thank you. My father says, use your character because then people are really going to notice you for who you are on the inside. Then they're going to notice your outward appearance. They're not going to say, oh, that guy is just that. Wait a minute, there's something unique about him. Let me start to pick him apart in my mind. And then one day I'll have the guts to ask him. And I welcome if somebody asks that. I will not just put myself and say, oh, I am this. Someone said to me, a number of people have said to me, even on TikTok. And as a matter of fact, TikTok, though it's an amazing platform, you're going to find people on there who have their own thought patterns. I'll put it nicely. One particular person, we were having a discussion forum, and so she says, do you identify as a Black person? And so I said, I identify as a mixed race person. That includes all of me. One does not go above the other. Why should I ignore a part of who I am and people who I've grown up with and have known and still know today who look different but yet similar to me in order to please you or anybody else? I keep saying that, but it is part of the platform itself. And when my father spoke those words, they really resonated. Your character and how you treat people, practice the golden rule is everything. On a regular basis, all right, I work in the financial industry. I meet people from all over the world. And so they said, wow, you are a very nice person. I love working with you. I'm a little curious. What is your background? And I'll tell them, they say, oh, wow, that is something that's amazing. And I said, well, thank you. Yours is amazing as well, too. And the fact that they take the time to at least investigate in a polite way, because there are those people who are going to say, oh, what are you? Who do you think you are? That's such and such. That shows that they have envy. And for what reason? You haven't done anything as long as you've been polite to them. And you don't try to walk around. Like, I'm not that person. I'm not going to think about being mixed every single moment of my life. If someone brings it up, I'll speak about it. And it comes up a lot. So I'll speak about it and that's it. I don't like people who are going to walk around and say, well, I am this and I am better than you and I am such and such and you're not. No, that is the biggest character, self-character assassination you can do to yourself. You be humble. You be kind. Give a kind word. Somebody walks past you, you look them dead in the face. Hey, how you doing? And that's it. If they don't respond, that's on them. Your character opens up doors and helps you blend into all different circles. I can honestly say, sure, not every circle you're going to fit into, but at least I'll get a, hey, how are you? And if I see I don't really have much in common with them, I'll go about my way. For the most part, I will go into a circle and communicate with them, have a couple of laughs. Hey, I'll see you again sometime. Next time I see them, we now have become acquainted with one another. Everybody likes to base everything on race. It should not be that way. Because you know why? You cut me, I cut you, we're both going to bleed out, depending on where you cut us, of course. But the thing is, the most important things in life is appreciation of others and learning about each other.
Mm. Well, Philip, I mean, the life lessons are coming. It's like, yes, take note, take note. I want to give us a chance to actually hear from your book,
Sure.
especially the one that we've decided you're going to read from, and then we can continue Q&A. We can take questions from Sunny and from Mariam, who are here live with us. We can take questions
Hello,
from
Sunny and
folks
Mariam.
on folks on YouTube. And so we'll continue this conversation. But for now, if you're ready, I'd love
Sure.
for you to read to us.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you. So, what's wrong with being mixed?
I'm gonna turn off my camera so that I can really close my eyes and like really take everything in. But I'm here and I'm listening.
Okay, great. Mixing has been occurring since the beginning of time. This will never change. Sadly, society most likely won't change their view for generations to come. It is a mental evolutionary process like everything else. There is a concept of there is no such thing as mixed race. There are so many ways to approach this opinion. I'll just leave it at take a science class. There is the approach of why bother to speak of this unimportant issue concept? This is a big cop out. Bottom line, everyone wants representation, but in a non-divisive way. Nothing else is ignored. Why should this topic be discussed? I am proudly of mixed race descent. I have had my own experiences from individuals that are against us representing the truth. If I had a weak mind and a negative sense of self, I would have disowned my own background years ago. What purpose would that have served? I recently made a TikTok post celebrating my ancestors. Nothing elaborate, just pictures that dates back from my parents all the way to my fourth great grandmother from 1808. To my surprise, accumulated the most likes that I have ever received on a post. Now up to 194,000 that have been watching this video. Excuse me. I have received wonderful responses globally, very touching compliments and sentiments, but there were those that were actually offended at this post. The post consisted of mixed race and full European people on both sides of the family. These are very rare photos that I have collected through the years. They are treasures. Aside from the positive marks, I have also received anywhere from passive aggressive remarks to blatant aggravated remarks. I was told, "You're white, a family of colonizers. You should be ashamed to acknowledge them. Generations of rapists. Your blood is tainted. You are sorry. Some of these things can really make you laugh. You are a Neanderthal. This is not your family. Tell this to the cops when they stop you. Slave masters and colonizers." Ladies and gentlemen, these poor souls are the same people that inspired this book. Thank you. They have a problem with mixed people for whatever reason. That is their problem. I will go on record to say that my ancestors, that are all from the Caribbean, were all people who were in committed and consensual relationships. The interesting part of the mixing, the interesting part is the mixing in my family began post slavery. When acknowledging being mixed, they think you are trying to diminish being Black or whatever other part that you are, overall speaking, when you're acknowledging all sides equally. If it's the truth, you can't hide from it. Why do people think that lighter skin tones, aka light skinned blacks, don't represent having an admixture, whether due to distant, recent, or multi-generational mixing? They say mixed people only come from two monoracial parents only, but science proves otherwise. There are people who honestly think that mixed people don't get together with mixed people and continue on. Look at mixed race societies, the Caribbean, South America, Central America, Mexico, even as far as the Philippines, parts of Europe, even parts of Africa. There was nothing wrong with having diversity in your heritage, no matter how recent or distant. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging any part of it, no matter how distant or recent. Without one part, you do not exist. Embrace it. One world, one people, despite similarities and differences in appearance. I've been asked, why would you write this book? Why not? Who doesn't want proper representation, especially when you are consistently misrepresented? And that's my passage from So, What's Wrong with Being Mixed?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And you really love the book, all the books. They all are designed to resonate with not just mixed people, but also non mixed people, because non mixed people make children with other people who are not like them. So everybody can be included in this. And for those who, now granted, these books, each one that comes about, they are more targeted on this very sensitive subject.
Mhm.
And you're going to have people who are going to criticize or whatever. I've had my criticism, and the best advice that I've given them was, okay, you read it first glance. Now I want you to read it again, and I want you to think about it. If you're getting angry, perhaps you are the ones who are practicing these practices that are taking away from another group of people when you have no reason to do so. Some of them reread it, some of them may discard it. The fact of the matter is, I've been able to reach out and touch somebody and make them rethink and perhaps evolve themselves altogether.
Well, I want to Charlie Coconut from YouTube said most want you to identify as someone to please them, something that you also mentioned, not to learn what's different out there. So
Mhm.
again, we're talking about that really specific interaction when people, I think oftentimes people are not even aware that they're uncomfortable or they want you to please them. And so their ignorance gets in the way of their curiosity and really being able to understand how we are different. And one of the things I love to talk about is that when we talk about how we're different, we also talk about how we're the same at the same
Thank
time.
you. It's true. Charlie
Tell me more
Coconut,
about that.
as a matter of fact, that's a very wonderful statement that Charlie Coconut made. I know Charlie Coconut, and she comes from the same exact background as me because that's my cousin Shaliska. Hey, girl. Could you rephrase your question for me, please?
Yeah, I was just saying, in my opinion, my experience, the more we talk about how we're different,
Hmm.
the more we talk about how we're the same. So,
Ah,
a
okay.
great example is that you and I are mixed in very different ways. We had very different racial backgrounds. We have
Mhm.
very different experiences. We're different ages. We have different identities. And yet, what we have in common is that we're super passionate about talking about mixed race experiences and creating community and being really inclusive to anybody and anybody's identity and anybody's background, that we're interested in having a multi-generational conversation. And so it's one of those examples where it's like, yeah, we both can sit here, we both have African backgrounds, we look completely different, we're different genders,
Mhm.
and still we have all this in common. And both of those extremes are true at the same time, you know?
What I like, the best way to continue this part of the conversation is, though people are different, they have their basic similarities. You're going to get up in the morning, you're going to get yourself washed, you're going to go to work, you're going to eat something, however order that's going to be. Now, what makes us individual are how we do things and the personal cultures, not just the familial cultures, the personal cultures of what our individual practices are. And to some people's surprise, personal cultures are pretty much the same across the board. Just like I'm in the United States and we're talking about XYZ, you could go to Brazil and they're talking about the same XYZ. That's what brings us together because we have the same goals and the same commonalities. What makes us individuals are the not so much the personal cultures, our home cultures, what we were taught growing up. And even then, that even brings us on the same level because whatever our parents taught us, practice the golden rule. I'll just generalize it by saying that. Now, whatever our genetic mixtures may be or foundations, they're important. They make us who we are. But at the same time, they're not the only part of us. Those are the similarities and differences that we all have in common. Those are things that are within that are different. We all come out with the same common goal. I hope I was clear on that.
Yeah, yeah. So, folks, I just want to open it up to our general Q&A. Philip and I have been had a chance to talk a lot. I'm going to read Sunny's question, which is in the chat here, but I also want to encourage you, Sunny, if at any point, or Mariam or Bucci Bear, as you're here, if you want to go, there's a little emoji here on Discord. It looks like a waving hand emoji. If you click on the waving hand emoji, you can be invited to come up on stage. And then you don't have to turn on your camera if you don't want to, but at least we'll be able to hear your voice. You're also welcome to turn on your camera. We would love to see your face and meet you in person. But if you want to share anything that's come up for you or respond to Philip in any way or ask a question, you're more than welcome to do that. But Sunny said, do you talk do you talk about any of this in your books? So everyone
Yes.
has some privilege. So comparing oppression to is oppression Olympics, as a dark-skinned therapist said. So people have a need to be heard for their painful experiences. And her example is, my mom was never diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, but she internalized ableism and had trauma and lacked internal and external resources.
Okay. Well, first thing I want to say, who was this person? That was Sunny?
Sunny, yes.
Sunny, God bless your mom, because clearly she's a strong person because she's able to come this far. I don't know you, but just from your question pattern, you're a pretty special person as well, too. Very strong. I like that. Now, in my books, speaking about oppression, yes, I have spoken about that in different ones. And that's what we spoke about before, how you had negative experience and you be able to turn around and turn into a positive experience. That's a prime example. I guess through self-teaching and compare comparisons to other people who have had similar experiences that have occurred, I try to look at mine and theirs. How do they rise from their ashes? How can I learn to rise from my ashes, should there be any? Um, when you're writing about such a sensitive topic, you're going to dig back through your own experiences. And in those experiences, are going to make you think to yourself, man, how did I make it through that particular part of my life? Whatever your faith is, or whatever your ideologies are, as long as they're positive, that will help you get through that. I am the type of person, I've learned from experience. I never wanted to be one of those people that 20 years down the road, I slap my hand up against my forehead and say, oh God, why did I do that? I'm still paying for it now. I guess through common
Mm,
sense and observing others around me, I've been able to grow through that. You have oppressors, but oppressors will not live as long as you do. They will only live on for as long as you allow them to. I hope I was able to
mm,
answer that question in the most poignant way.
mhm. Yeah, and I'm curious, with your book, So What's Wrong with Being Mixed?
Mhm.
What's the conversation that you felt still wasn't happening that made you write this book?
Oh, that was TikTok. A number of TikTok posts. And I just saw these people coming on there and preaching all of this rhetoric that they had no scientific basis for. And then they made it personal. And so they say, okay,
Mhm.
there's an ongoing battle that people say, okay, I'm only mixed from slavery. I am not mixed. And so I said, so you're saying you're mixed on one hand and saying you're not mixed. But yet they are multi-generational mixed race people. And they want to give this persona that they are just one thing. There's a thing known as black by race, black by culture, black by ethnicity. Race, ethnicity, and culture and nationality are four different entities. They go on there and they preach their rhetoric, and at the same time, they are putting down mixed race people who identify as mixed race, but they are just as mixed, if not more mixed, than the average mixed race person. And so I would ask the question, let me ask you a question. What's wrong with being mixed? There's nothing wrong with being mixed, but it's not me. Okay, let me ask you a question. During the time of chattel slavery, when they brought those individuals over here, did any of them look like you? That's not the point. The fact of the matter is, did any of them look like you? Would you have suffered the same experiences that they did? Would they have kidnapped you? Maybe yes, maybe no. But I'm just saying for the sake of discussion, would you have had the same experiences that they did? Probably not. Then you need to change your approach on things. Stop putting down mixed people. You clearly are mixed. Science proves that. I'm not the one who has to prove it. Science proves it. Own up to it. You can have your ethnicity of whatever you want it to be because that's your home training, your culture, same thing. But when it comes to your genetics, don't play around with that. Some people say, oh, what do you care about that? Simple. Because me and millions of others who are representing who we really are, you are taking away from us, putting us in a further hole that we've been trying to crawl out of. And you're also taking away from other people as well. What am I taking away from other people? You're taking away somebody else's identity. You are taking away other people's sense of being and trying to claim it your own. People call that cultural misappropriation, or no, cultural appropriation, something like that. And you don't realize that you're doing this. You can be the loudest person saying you're this, that, and the other thing. Look in the mirror. Look at your background. Take a DNA test. I knew a girl one time, and this girl, she was very much in the same mindset. So I dared her. So she says, okay, what's your dare? I want you to take a DNA test. The girl took a DNA test. Her jaw dropped to the ground. She was 67% European and 20 something percent um, African, and then the rest were other little short things. And so I said, okay, let me see your results. I don't want to show you. What don't you want to show me? She showed it to me. So I said, okay, I'm not taking away from your culture of your home or your ethnicity or whatever. But I'm strictly speaking of genetics itself. That's not going to get me anywhere. It's probably got you more places than you probably imagine. But work on your character. We started to talk more. And so she says, I'm starting to see what you were trying to tell me. And so I said, right. I don't want to change who you are. I like who you are. We may not agree on something, but you are a friend of mine. But now to this day, this young woman is now not the question of identifying accordingly. She's learned more about herself and has become more open-minded to who she is and those around her. I think that's something,
Mhm,
it's a teachable moment. You don't want to change somebody. You just want them to look at something from a different perspective. And if you can help somebody do
mhm.
that for positive reasons, you've won the day.
Wow. Beautiful.
Thank you.
So I have one last question to kind of round us out.
Mhm.
And it's about the photographs of your parents and your grandparents that you sent us. And you
Yes.
mentioned that there is a story connected to them. Would you share that story with us?
Yes, there is a story. I'll have to do it all from memory. Okay, I was on a mixed race site last week, and it was a post that was on there, and I answered it. And so I said, "Listen, this is what you are composed of. Do not let anyone try to take that away from you." And I put in that post that I am 66% European, 26% African, and 8% Amerindian. Well, all the reductive people came out. Oh, your test is wrong. You're lying. I see you just as black. All this other stuff and so forth. And so I said, well, you can see me however you want, but science does not lie. Sure, these may be novelty tests, but my own background proves that. So I got into a discussion with the owners of the site, and they allowed me to put up information about the family. So I have my four grandparents as the foundation because everything stems back from them. Then you have my parents, which leads to me. So I was able to break down. As a matter of fact, I'm counting my books right now. Ah, here it is. I can read it to you. It's funny how people like to judge. I noticed that on that particular post, there were a lot of mixed people, because it's a mixed race site, who were having an issue with what I had written. And it
Can
just
you
goes to
share the
show that,
mixed race site? Sorry to
pardon?
interrupt you. Do you remember, can you share the mixed race site?
Oh, yes, an excellent site known as Unapologetically Biracial in the Gray. That's what it's called. Wonderful site. I've been working with them for a few years. I am trying to find this one thing. I think it's at the beginning of the book. I'm hoping that it is. What it was the breakdown of an MGM. And of course, I was the example of that. Ah, here we go. All right. Oh, and this is from the book, The MGM Perspective, a guideline into the mixed world. Available on Amazon.com. Put that little plug in there.
Shameless plug. Absolutely. That's what we're
Okay.
here for.
I'm reading another passage from the book. My father's lineage is European, African, and Amerindian descent. My mother's lineage is European and African. To break it down further, here is a composition of my 8 great grandparents. My father's side, great grandfather number 1. Father was European, mother was European and African. Great grandmother 1. Father was European, African, and Indigenous Amerindian mixed. Mother was European. Now this would be my paternal grandfather's parents. Great grandfather number 2, both parents were European. Great grandmother number 2, father was European, mother was African and Indigenous Caribbean mix. Now, this is my paternal grandmother's parents. Now, my mother's side, I'll start off with great grandfather number 1, both parents were biracial European and African mix. Great grandmother number 1, father was African, mother was African and European mix. That is my grandfather. Wait, that was my grandfather's parents, my mother's grandparents. Wait, yes. Okay. Now you have great grandfather number 2. Both parents were European. Great grandmother number 2, father was African. Mother was African and European mix. That is my maternal grandmother's parents. These people blended together and kept the race mixing continuing to happen rather than becoming distant. The great grandparents had children and so on, maintaining the racial, cultural, and ethnic diversity generationally in which I represent today, an example of an MGM, a multi-generational mixed race person. Now, I've come across a number of people that say, oh, that's still not mixed. Really? You've got to take a science class. You have, and if I had to break it down to you of famous people, because that's what people would more so resonate with, look at Zoe Kravitz. You have Lisa Bonet and Lenny Kravitz. Both of them are biracial. They had their daughter, and what is she? Is she just black? Is she just white? No, she's biracial, just like her parents. That's second generational. Now, there are people who will say there is a major difference between an MGM and a biracial person. The answer is yes, and the answer is also no. The difference is in their households, you'll have the two parents. One is one race, the other one is the other. So they're going to see two different backgrounds that are blended together to make one. Now, in an MGM household, you have two people who are both mixed race and they have their children. Now, they could be of the same type of mix or they could be of a different mix. One could be black and white, the other one could be um, Asian and
Label.
whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And but then there's a common ground because they have that mixed environment. Now, when you go outside, it's a totally different place that you're in. People are only going to know what your background is unless you definitively tell them. They can guess, they could be right, they could be wrong. The fact is, mixed is mixed. Deal with it. You cannot take that away from somebody. Science does not allow you to take that away from somebody. Again, you cannot play basketball with a football.
Listen. Clock it.
Imagine you bounce that
I
football on the
wanna
ground and dribbles once.
Sorry?
Imagine you take that football that you're playing basketball with. As soon as you start to dribble the ball, it goes off in the wrong direction.
It doesn't work at all.
No,
It doesn't work, the ball is shaped completely wrong to play that sport. It doesn't work at all. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Well, I wanna make a community announcement here that we've started a monthly event. It's called Drinks on Discord. Not doesn't have to be alcoholic, can be juice, can be water, can be tea. And it's where we meet with leaders and anybody really in the space to continue discussing initiatives, websites, people's businesses, any community organization that you've started, that you want to start, people that have platforms, mixed race therapists, all sorts of different people who are active in the community. It's a networking space for us to get to know your program, your project, your product. And the next one is happening on July 21st. It's every third Tuesday of the month. And I am excited to invite you to this next one happening in July. It's going to be here on Discord, where we're right now. And we have one last question for you, Philip, from YouTube. Do you think that people don't take DNA tests because there is a shame involved with being mixed via slavery or colonialism?
There are a variety of reasons why people do not want to take DNA tests. The ones that you hear the most is, I don't want the government having access to my public records. Guess what? They do. So this is not going to change it. Now, to answer your question more targeted, a lot of people don't realize, at least in the States alone, Black mixes occurred because of the atrocities that happened during slavery. But that's more so in the Bible Belt. Yes, people migrated up and so forth, but people don't realize that a bulk of Black-white mixtures occurred post-slavery from people that came here from other countries. People don't take that into consideration. They automatically think if they have European blood in them, oh, it's from slavery. No, that may or may not be the case because only 1%, and I did the research on this and I had to confirm with other people, only 1% of the population actually owned slaves. One slave alone could be anywhere from $300 to over $1,200 at one particular time. And then, of course, inflation in those days, it still went up. So you're going to have people who have not have slaves. They had the same negative mentality, but there were not as many mixed people then as there were once post-slavery started, all the way up to now. A lot of people will argue with that, and they'll come up with these facts they got from their Google education rather than actually taking an actual formal education and doing better research. People are afraid that they might find out more about themselves than they actually want to know. Secrets will come out. I know a guy, and real nice guy. He was really annoyed at what he found. He found out he had scores, or rather percentages, just like mine. He was respectively, he was very much into Black ethnicity and the whole bit, and everything was the Black topic. Now that he found out that he was in a 60 plus percentile of being European, he was mad. He was angry. He was annoyed that he took it. He was embarrassed that he took it. So I said, listen, don't be embarrassed at something like that. Because remember, you take out one part of you, you don't exist. Yes, but slavery. I said, you don't know if it came from slavery unless you've done the research on your family. Have you done that? No, I haven't. Well, find out. And if it has, so be it. You're still here. Look what you've accomplished. I try to keep that open mind on that. I encourage people to find out as much as they possibly can about themselves. You have people who will find out that they had the identity the entire life of being an Italian American. They didn't have one drop of Italian in them. They only had German and Irish, and they were upset. Somebody must have copped a name, or they migrated someplace, and the rest is history. Once you find out about yourself, as my grandmother said, then you can find out about the world.
This has been a nearly perfect conversation, Philip. Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time. Thank you for collaborating with us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your advice. We've put the link to purchase Philip's book in the chat. Please follow Philip, Carib author, on Instagram, on TikTok. Buy his books on Amazon. Share our video on YouTube with your friends and your family, and continue to stay here in the Discord. The great thing about our Discord is that Philip is available. You can reach out, you can tag him on comments. He'll be here and continue to respond and continue to facilitate the conversation. So
I would love to
that's
continue
my
this
sign
more.
off.
Thank you,
Yes,
everyone. This has been a
absolutely.
wonderful experience. Go on Amazon.com. You see all 12 books on there, and you'll get a lot out of it. They're eye openers, and it makes you think. And it also unifies people together of all walks of life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll say goodbye here, and we'll talk soon on all the mediums and over email. And yes, I love. And when the podcast comes, then we'll have you on the podcast too.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Really. Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye, everyone. Online, on YouTube, and at Discord. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.